So where is this typically used? Okay, and this is a very fundamental thing. It is called a scan chain. Okay, so in a chip typically, okay, if you take like a large chip, okay, let's say let's say this is a combinational circuit, okay, some NAND gates, OR gates, XOR gates, and so on. So finally you will have some number of outputs like this, right? These are all primary inputs, primary input 1 all the way to primary input n minus 1. These are primary output 0, primary output 1 all the way to primary output m minus 1. So n inputs and m outputs, and this circuit could have millions of gates. If you look at the complexity of circuits today, I showed you this in the beginning of the course with respect to a microprocessor. This can have a million gates. Okay. Now, when you design a chip like this, it's quite obvious to see that you cannot have access to all those million nodes. Okay. So in fact, if you look at a chip, if you remember, I told you that the microprocessor was some 25 mm by 25 mm. Okay, that means the total number of inputs and outputs to this chip could be very small, of the order of 100 or something. So in all fairness, you can assume that you only have access to these n inputs and these m outputs, and in some cases that also may not be true. Okay, you may have access to fewer number of things. Now the point is, let us say that this combinational block was exercised on the chip and you are trying to figure out what went wrong. Let's say the answer came out to be wrong and we do not know in which internal gate actually went wrong, okay, in order to figure out what the mistake is. So what you will do is you will use this idea of a scan chain. Okay, so let's say that I just take a hypothetical example like this. I have a circuit like this. Okay, okay, and XOR. Okay, I'm just showing you some random path like this. Okay, I'm just showing you this thing. So let us say that these nodes, these are all internal nodes, okay, that are not accessible to us. This is a primary input, this is a primary output. Okay, they are accessible to us. But I want to be able to know the internal state of these nodes as well. Okay, so one thing that you can do is you set up some primary inputs, allow the circuit to evaluate, stabilize to the final value, you check the primary outputs. Okay, let's say that was wrong and now you want to debug and figure out what went wrong. So what you will do is you will basically do this parallel in serial out structure like this. Okay, this is my multiplexer, right? This is what I will call SI. I'll tell you what that is. Okay, right, and I'll add the last flop here. Okay, this is my clock. and this is my load. I will just call it L for now. Okay. Yeah. So what you see here is these are my I0, I1, I2 and I3 signals. So now imagine that you have given some primary inputs, you have got a primary output, you check the primary output, something was wrong, right? Now I need to find out which gate actually evaluated the wrong output. Okay. So because this is a combinational circuit, in simulation or something you can easily figure out what the expected output is. You know what you know what the expected value of I0, I1, I2, I3 are. Okay. Now what you do is you take that 4 signals, okay, and simply pulse the load signal L, right? Like I told you, you pulse the L signal, okay. This clock by default will not be activated, okay. I will also call this the S clock, okay. This is scan in SISO, yeah. So SI and SO are the input and output of this chain. S clock is basically this scan clock, okay, and let me call it SL. SL is scan load, right? So what you are going to do is, if when SL pulses, like in the previous example I showed you timing diagram, I0 to I3 will get activated and appear at the input of these flops. Now you keep pulsing this clock, S clock, as many times as there are these flip flops, the output will come out one by one at the at your this thing, okay. So effectively what I am saying is, yeah, you have so many primary input, primary outputs. Along with this you add two interesting things, okay. One is called the scan in and this is called the scan clock, okay, and the scan load, okay, and as an output you get the scan out. If I add these 4 pins, then technically I can get access to any number of nodes inside my circuit, okay, and I can actually verify if all of these are working correctly or not. Now of course the important thing is when the combinational block is being executed, right, it will be done at a much higher speed, okay. So this clock and the clock at which your combinational circuit or the chip runs will not be the same. This S clock is a very slow clock, okay. It can take its time because it's a debug process. It's going to be done not at real time, okay. In fact, you're going to do some operation at real time, get the output ready and then sample it out for you to see what's going wrong, okay. So with this kind of a chain, right, you can basically stitch any number of flip flops in this pattern, okay. So what I have shown you here is actually a very simplistic, straightforward this thing, right, but in a real chip, okay, real chip, what will happen is you have arbitrary gates sitting here, okay. I will choose to put a scan flop here, okay. I am going to call this structure, this whole structure as a scan flop, which is a parallel in serial out structure, okay. So I will put a SF here, right. Then I may choose to put it at the output of some other gate here, okay, SF here, okay. This output will go to the parallel load, okay, the input I of that flop, and the scan out of this will be fed to the scan in of this. The third scan flop could be here, right, and effectively you feed it like this, like this. So physically this thing could basically be sitting in any x comma y coordinate of your combinational block. This this will be my scan in, this will be my scan out. Of course you have to route the S clock, you have to like send all the scan load and all that stuff to these things and ensure that they are available at each scan flop for the operation, right. So, so this is where the parallel load serial out is very useful. In addition to this, you could also just use the simple serial scan chain, right. For example, I may want to initialize some of these internal nodes. Okay, I want to deliberately initialize that without having to come from the primary inputs. In that case, I will just use a serial in, serial out scan flop, where I just serially load whatever data I want, make sure it is available at that node, and then I can just operate that circuit to check if it is working or not. Okay, so with that, I will conclude my discussion on these shift register operations, right. Shift registers are also used in microprocessors, by the way, to do arithmetic operations. Okay, so let me tell you that if I store 1100, okay, and I shift left, okay, it will become 1000, okay, which basically means what is going to happen here. I have no, I cannot do this. So let me take this example 0100 and I am doing shift left. Okay, so this is decimal number. Okay, this is LSB, assuming LSB. Okay, and this is MSB. That's why even earlier I wrote it as Q3 down to 0, Q3, Q2, Q1, Q0, right. So LSB is 0, MSB is 0. So this is numerically equal to 4 to base 10. When I shift left, I basically multiply by 2, right. On the other hand, I could also shift right. You take shift right and it will become 0010, okay, which is 2 to base 10. Okay, so shift left, shift right are very useful arithmetic operations as well, and in general, therefore, you have the concept of a universal shift register that can do any of these operations. Either you want to do parallel load, right, or you want to do a shift left, or you want to do a shift right, or you just leave the data as it is. Okay, so in order to achieve this, right, if I look at a universal shift register, okay, I want 4 operations: parallel load, shift left, shift right, and no change. Okay, so obviously in order to implement this 4 state system, I need 2 select lines, S1 and S0, right. So you could basically do 4 combinations and just extending the same logic that we did, right. Earlier we wanted to do only one of 2 things, either load or shift, or load or no change, right. So we used 1 select line there. Now we need 2 select lines, and therefore in order to get the to switch between these 4 options, you need a 4:1 multiplexer there, right, at the input to these flops. And effectively what you will do is you are going to choose between Q3, Q2, Q1, Q0, whether you are going to shift in that direction or you are going to do Q1, Q0, Q0, Q1, Q2, Q3. Depending on that, you will input to these multiplexers will be appropriately given, right. And of course your own Q also will be given back, and that implementation is there in the textbook Morris Mano. I urge you to please understand it from what is given in the textbook and map it to what we have studied here, right. So that's a very straightforward extension of what we have done in the class till now. Okay, so thank you all.